Good day, everyone.
My name is Sofia Erika Lim.
I am Vincent Arasad.
I am Famindalan. We are going to review the book of Jonathan Swift entitled Gulliver's Travel. Jonathan Swift is an Irish author and satirist. He was born in Dublin, Ireland on November 30, 1667. He best remembered for his 1726 book, Gulliver's Travel. Lemuel Gulliver is the main character of the story. He is a surgeon from England. He is fond of traveling and always seeking for adventure, and sets out to find and observe cultures. His four main adventures were Lilliput, Brobdingnag, Laputa, and Wenems. The adventures of Gulliver begin when he shipwrecked, and he is the only one survivor, so he swims and finds himself in a place called Lilliput. He is being tied up by people who are less than 6 inches and 15 centimeters tall. They take him to their capital city and release him. The Lilliput people ask him a favor to help them defend their land against the empire of the Blefuscu, with which Lilliput is at conflict with. When the Blefuscu attack, Gulliver captured their naval fleet and stopped them from conquering the land of Lilliput. After that, when the royal palace burned down, Gulliver is to the rescue to extinguish the fire by urinating on it.
As he travels as a ship surgeon, Gulliver and a small crew were sent to an island to find the water. But instead, they find a land full of giants. As the crew flees, Gulliver was left behind and captured. Gulliver's captor, a farmer, takes him to the farmer's home where Gulliver is treated kindly, but of course curiously. The farmer begins exhibiting Gulliver for money, and the farmer's young daughter, Glumdalclitch, takes care of him. When the queen sees Gulliver, she offers to buy Gulliver from the farmer, and who accepts her offer. She also takes the farmer's daughter into her service. Gulliver lives for 2 years in the Brobdingnagian court, his tiny size putting him at the mercy of larger creatures at every turn. One day on the beach, as Gulliver looks longingly at the sea from his box or his portable room, he is snatched by an eagle and eventually dropped into the sea. A passing ship spots the floating chest and rescues Gulliver, eventually returning him to England and his family.
On his third voyage, Gulliver discovered a floating island called Laputa. Gulliver meets several inhabitants including the king. The language of Laputans relies heavily with mathematical and musical concepts. Though they are greatly concerned with the mathematics and with music, they have no practical application for their learning. Gulliver feels neglected on Laputa since the inhabitants seem interested only in mathematics and in music, and are far superior him in their knowledge. He is bored by their conversation and he wants to leave. There is one lord of the court whom Gulliver finds to be intelligent and curious, but who is regarded by the other inhabitants of Laputa as stupid because he has no ear for music. Gulliver asks this lord to petition the king to let him leave the island. The petition succeeds, and he is now down on the mountain above the Lagado. Finally, on his fourth voyage, Gulliver set out as a captain of a ship, but along confinement in his cabin, he arrives in a known island. The island is populated by the Houyhnhnms, rational thinking horses who rule, and by Yahoos, brutish human-like creatures who serve the Houyhnhnms. Gulliver set about learning of their language, and when he can speak, he narrates it to his voyage to them to explain the constitution of England. He is treated with the great courtesy and kindness by the horses, and is enlightened by his many conversations with them by his exposure to their noble culture. He wants to stay with the Houyhnhnms, but his bared body reveals to the horses that he is much very like a Yahoo. Houyhnhnms are very curious about Gulliver, who seems to be both Yahoo and civilized. But after Gulliver describes his country and its history to the master of Houyhnhnm, the Houyhnhnm concludes that the people of England are not more reasonable than the Yahoos. At last, It is decided that Gulliver must leave the Houyhnhnms. Gulliver then returns to England.
The genre of this story is satire. Satire is a genre of literature and performing arts, usually fiction and less frequently in non-fiction, in which vices, follies, abuses, and shortcomings are held up to ridicule, ideally with the intent of shaming individuals, corporations, government, or society itself into improvement. Rising action. Gulliver's encounters with other societies eventually lead up to his rejection of human society in the fourth voyage. Climax. Gulliver rejects human society in the fourth voyage, specifically when he shuns the generous Don Pedro as a vulgar yahoo. Falling action. Gulliver's unhappy return to England accentuates his alienation and compels him to buy horses, which remind him of Houyhnhnms to keep him company. The themes of Gulliver's travels are might versus right, the individual versus the society, the limits of human understanding. The symbols of this story are Lilliputians, Brobdingnagians, Laputans, Houyhnhnms, and England. Conflict. The major conflict throughout the story of Gulliver's travels in the four places that he visited shows how the government handles such things as the political laws, the election, and wars. He compared each society to his own, observed their culture, and how each of the group lived way better than the other. Gulliver experienced different conflicts in the places that he visited. First, he has to defeat the Blefuscu and make peace with them. In the second, the Brobdingnagians captured him and treat him as he was a toy. In the third and fourth, there is a conflict going on between the pirates, people, and the creatures from various mysterious islands. Conflict within Gulliver, whether to go home or not, or just continue traveling.
There are two beautiful pieces of works written by Jonathan Smith, and these are A Modest Proposal, 1729, and Gulliver's Travel, 1726. These two books have similarities in regard to purpose, structure, reasoning, and literary tools. Jonathan Swift's purpose in A Modest Proposal is largely to draw attention to the situation of life and people in Ireland. This is seen when he expresses his concern by wanting the English to come up with reforms that would change the life of Irish citizenship. Similarly, in Gulliver's Travel, Swift highly advocates for reforms in the English government through artistically penning down the weakness in terms of war, corruption levels, and the uncalm social environment. Swift was an Irish patriot, hence advocating for positive reforms through satirizing the social environment and class differences. The structure in both books is intriguing. Both books keep the reader's interest as every detail is a surprise with no point being obvious. They both are a trail of curiosity of the political and social nature in Ireland at the specified moment that the books were written. In A Modest Proposal, for instance, Swift uses fascinating statistics and proposals like killing of poor children for meals, which gets the reader to anticipate what happens next. Moreover, the use of parody keeps the reader imagination to a whole new level with the unpredictable political allegory to keep up within both books. While Gulliver's Travel is a narrative based on telling an adventure story by Swift, A Modest Proposal is keen on ethical and logical reasoning. Swift writes the proposal with the aim of stirring up reactions that would lead to getting solutions in the country's problems. Additionally, one could feel ethically challenged in the aspect of eating children as crazily expressed by Swift. Contrary, Gulliver's Travel is mostly emphasizing of the character like Lilliput and Queen Anne and their input. Discovery's hence giving politics a softer touch in the story. Swift has employed literary tools in both books to help him bring out his messages and themes clearly. In both books, Swift uses first-person viewpoint. Moreover, in A Modest Proposal, Swift satirically makes the rich people in Ireland and their greed and the idea of people killing children as horrifying as it may sound. Irony as a literary device has been used in both books to show the societal problem in a lighter tone, thus towards politicians and social planners and bureaucracy in A Modest Proposal and Gulliver's Travel respectively. In all, both books have effective structure, reasoning, and literary devices that have facilitated specified themes as intended by Swift. The similarities in the books are striking while the difference very few. One thing for sure is that Swift had the best of the Irish community at large, as expressed by his authorship in the books. The use of extensive satire and irony is a captivating style that keeps the reader glued to the amazing pieces of work.
While reading the book, we have predicted that Gulliver will not able to return to his home, which is in England.
Because he met different creatures, conflicts, and challenges
that hinders him to continue traveling.
So our favorite part of the story is
when Gulliver rescued the royal palace and extinguished the fire by urinating on it.
My favorite part of the story is where Gulliver pulled all the enemy ships to protect the land of Lilliput.
To help us more understand about the story, we watched the movie Gulliver's Travel, and if you also want to watch it, we are going to put the link on the description box below. If you have never read this book, we highly recommend it. The animated and live-action movies are fun for kids, but they contain almost none of the biting social satire and generally leave out the most interesting parts of the book.
So guys, thank you for watching.
We hope that you have learned something.
If you have questions, you can leave it down on the comment box section. Thank you!
Thank you, bye.
Bye-bye. Isa pa pag ganyan.
Ay,
Oh.
ay. Nagdilim.
Bye-bye!
Bye!